Imagine finding a creature so rare, so extraordinary, that it could change everything you thought you knew about the universe. A tiny, abandoned dragon, not just a pet, but a being with the power to communicate emotions, heal wounds, and bridge the gap between species. What if this creature could unite humans and aliens in ways no one ever expected? Join us as we uncover the heart-stopping journey of a dragon named Squirt and discover the incredible power of empathy that could reshape the galaxy forever. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and like the video. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. Leo Hayden was a simple man living in a complex world. His barber shop, tucked in a quiet corner of Nova Station, had been his sanctuary for years. Every day, he cut hair, chatted with customers, and kept to himself. Life aboard the bustling space station was busy but predictable, and Leo preferred it that way. After all, he wasn't one for excitement. He liked order. He liked peace. It was on one such quiet evening, just as the sun began to set outside, that everything changed. Leo had just finished up with his last customer for the day. The sound of his scissors snipping through hair was calming, rhythmic. But suddenly, something broke the stillness. A loud, frantic voice echoed down the hallway outside. "Get that thing out of here before it burns down the whole promenade," the voice shouted. Leo paused, confused. He'd heard commotion outside before, but this sounded different. Something was wrong. He pushed open the door and stepped out into the corridor of Nova Station. A crowd had gathered, murmuring and pointing. The source of the chaos stood near the waste disposal units, trembling with fear. It was a creature, small, no bigger than a house cat. It had pale blue scales that shimmered in the light, a strange mix of pearlescent white and copper. Tiny, sharp spikes ran down its back, and its wings, which looked too large for its tiny body, were folded tightly against its sides. Its bright blue eyes flickered nervously, darting around at the gathered crowd. The creature made a soft, pitiful chirping sound, its voice a mix of something lost and desperate, almost like a scared puppy with a kettle's whistle. Leo's heart softened at the sight. The creature was clearly frightened. He didn't need to be a xenobiologist to see that. But before he could take a step forward, station security arrived. Officer Juno Crawford, a tall, no-nonsense woman, stepped into the crowd with a containment device in hand. She immediately took charge. "Stand back, everyone," she commanded, her voice firm. "This is an unregistered alien life form. Protocol says it goes to quarantine." Leo hesitated. He understood the rules, the regulations, but something about the creature's fear, its helplessness, made him question. Stepping forward, he addressed Officer Crawford. His voice calm but insistent. "Now, hold on just a minute," Leo said. "That's a baby. Look at it. It's terrified." Officer Crawford raised an eyebrow, looking at Leo as if he were out of his depth. "Mr. Hayden, with all due respect, you cut hair. You're not a xenobiologist," she replied coolly. But Leo wasn't backing down. His years of dealing with difficult customers had given him a confidence few people realized he had. He could handle a scared alien just like he handled a frightened customer. The tiny creature made another chirping sound, and Leo swore he saw tears glistening in its blue eyes. Without thinking, he knelt down slowly, extending his hand palm up, just as his grandmother had taught him when approaching nervous animals back on Earth. He spoke gently, his voice low and reassuring. "Hey there, little one," Leo said softly. "Nobody's going to hurt you." To everyone's surprise, including Leo's, The creature took a hesitant step forward. Its tiny legs wobbled as it moved, unsure of its surroundings. It crept closer to Leo's hand, its eyes locked onto his face. The crowd watched, wide-eyed, as the creature sniffed Leo's palm cautiously. Then, in a move that surprised everyone, it climbed into his hand, curling up into a ball no larger than a softball. It was so light, so fragile, that Leo could barely feel its weight. "Well, I'll be damned," Officer Crawford muttered, lowering her containment device in disbelief. "Where did it come from?" "Found it near the shop," Leo said, cradling the little creature carefully in his hands. "Poor thing looks like it's been through hell." The officer looked at the creature and then back at Leo. "Cargo ship from Kepler Station found it in their hold. No tags, no registration chip, nothing. They think it was smuggled and abandoned when the smugglers realized how strict the new regulations are. The poor thing's been living off scraps for who knows how long." Leo's heart sank. He could feel the creature's ribs through its soft scales. It was thin, far too thin for something meant to be so majestic. He looked down at the tiny creature, still trembling in his hands. "What happens if you take it to quarantine?" he asked softly. Officer Crawford shifted uncomfortably. "Best case scenario, it sits in a cage for 6 months while we try to figure out what species it is and where it came from. Worst case, well, we don't like to talk about that." Leo didn't need to hear the rest. He could guess. Unregistered aliens that couldn't be identified often faced a grim fate. But Leo wasn't willing to let that happen. The creature needed him. He had to help. "I'll take it," Leo said suddenly. You can't just adopt it, Leo. It's not that simple. I've got exotic pet licensing from when Margaret and I kept those Martian ferrets 5 years ago. I'll file the paperwork, pay the fees, get it registered. Just give me a chance." Leo's voice was firm, and Officer Crawford paused, weighing his words. After a long moment, she sighed. "You've got 72 hours, she said, her tone softening. "If anything goes wrong, if it shows any signs of aggression or disease—" "I promise it won't," Leo interrupted, carefully cradling the little creature as it nestled into his palm. "I'll take full responsibility." As Leo walked away from the small crowd, heading back toward his shop, he felt a strange sense of peace settle over him. He hadn't planned on this. He hadn't asked for it. But now, he knew one thing for sure. His life was about to change forever. And for the first time in a long time, he was ready for whatever came next. Leo's apartment on Nova Station was cozy, but never quiet. Between his wife Olivia's constant chatter about the latest station news and their ever-growing collection of odd pets, it was always full of life. But the night Leo brought home the little dragon, whom he had already started call Squirt, the air in the apartment felt different. Quieter, more peaceful in an odd way. When Leo opened the door, Olivia turned from her cooking station, her eyebrows raised in surprise. The look on her face shifted from confusion to amusement in an instant. "Leo, what in the 7 systems is that?" she asked, her hands on her hips. Leo stepped inside carefully, cradling Squirt in his hands like it was the most precious thing in the galaxy. "I found him near the shop," he said softly, trying not to startle the little creature. "Poor thing's been abandoned, malnourished. Looks like it hasn't had a proper meal in weeks." Olivia's gaze softened as she walked over to get a closer look. She knelt down beside Leo, gently reaching out to touch Squirt's fragile body. The little dragon didn't flinch. It was so small, almost too delicate to be real, like a creature caught between 2 worlds. It seemed to recognize Olivia's kindness and curled up even tighter in Leo's palm. "He's not just malnourished, Leo," Olivia murmured, her fingers brushing the creature's scales. "He's starved. And those copper patches on his scales? That's a mineral deficiency. This poor thing's been living on scraps for far too long. Leo felt a pang in his chest as he looked down at Squirt. The little dragon was trembling, still frightened from everything that had happened. "Maybe he's just lonely," Leo suggested, his voice low and thoughtful. "He's probably been on his own for so long, he doesn't know who to trust anymore." Olivia sighed, glancing at Leo. "Maybe, but we'll need to do more than just feed him. He's going to need a lot of care, and I'm not sure we're prepared for all that." Olivia was a former vet who had worked with many species from different worlds before she retired, but even she wasn't sure what to make of this creature. "We'll figure it out," Leo said, his voice steady with determination. "We always do." The first night was tough. Squirt refused to eat anything they offered. He turned away from the synthetic protein pellets, the imported Andromedan grain, and even the freeze-dried moth larvae, an expensive delicacy that most alien pets couldn't resist. Squirt just curled up in the corner of the bathroom, shivering despite the warmth of the heat lamps. Olivia stayed close, quietly observing the little creature, but it was clear that Squirt was still too frightened to trust them fully. As the hours passed, Leo couldn't shake the feeling that Squirt was more than just a pet. He was a being with a story, a creature who had seen things Leo couldn't begin to understand. His heart went out to the dragon. It was clear to him that Squirt needed more than food. He needed love, safety, and time. But most importantly, he needed patience. "Maybe he's just missing something," Leo said, breaking the silence. "Maybe he's not hungry for food. Maybe he just needs to feel safe, to feel like he belongs." Olivia nodded, understanding. "I think you're right, Leo. Maybe he just needs to know he can trust us, that we're not going to hurt him." The next morning, as Leo prepared breakfast, something unexpected happened. Max, their large alien dog-like companion, padded quietly into the bathroom. Max was a Canis cosmicus, a creature that looked like a mix between a golden retriever and a small bear, with 6 legs and a gentle temperament. Though Max was getting older and slower, his calm presence was always a comfort to the family. As Max approached Squirt, the little dragon tensed, his wings flaring out slightly. It looked like he might try to defend himself, but instead of backing away, Max did something surprising. He lay down next to Squirt, his massive furry body creating a barrier between the dragon and the rest of the room. Squirt looked at Max for a long moment, his body trembling. But then, slowly, he uncurled and moved closer to Max, pressing against the older creature's side for warmth. Leo watched in awe. "Well, would you look at that?" he whispered, his voice full of wonder. "He's not alone anymore," Olivia said quietly, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Max is his protector now." Over the next few days, Squirt began to settle in. With Max by his side, he started to trust his new home. He ate small amounts of food, cautiously at first, but eventually started to show signs of improvement. It was as if Max had given Squirt the comfort he needed to start healing, not just physically, but emotionally as well. Soon, Squirt became a part of their daily routine. He would follow Max around the apartment, curling up next to him when they took naps. Leo and Olivia marveled at the bond forming between the two. It was something they hadn't expected, but it was beautiful in its own quiet way. But Squirt wasn't just bonding with Max. He began to interact with the other pets too. Professor Quill, their iguana intellectus, was a sharp-minded creature who loved solving puzzles. Squirt watched the iguana closely, fascinated by his problem-solving skills. At first, Quill didn't take much notice of the small dragon, but eventually Quill began to tolerate Squirt's presence. They even started to share space, with Squirt watching Quill work through puzzles and mimicking his movements. Olivia chuckled one evening as she watched the two creatures interact. It's like Squirt's trying to learn from him. He's watching every move, every button press. Maybe he's learning to solve problems of his own, Leo said, smiling as he watched his little dragon. He's a smart one, that's for sure. As the days passed, Squirt became more and more integrated into their lives. He was no longer just a lost, terrified creature. He was part of their family now, small, fragile, but full of promise. Leo and Olivia couldn't help but feel that they had been given a gift, one that would change their lives forever. And so, with each passing day, Squirt grew stronger, more confident. He had found his place in their home and in their hearts. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but Leo and Olivia knew one thing for sure. They would take care of Squirt, no matter what came next. Days passed, and Squirt continued to settle into his new life with Leo and Olivia. The bond between the small dragon and their pets, especially Max, grew stronger each day. Squirt was no longer the fragile creature they had first found. His wings had started to fill out, his scales were regaining their luster, and he was becoming more active. But what neither Leo nor Olivia could have predicted was how Squirt's presence would begin to affect their lives in ways they never imagined. One morning, as Leo was finishing his breakfast, a soft chime sounded from the door. Olivia stood up from the table and walked over to answer it. She opened the door to reveal a tall woman in a lab coat, carrying a large scanner and a tablet. "I'm Dr. Marissa Keller," she said, introducing herself. "I've been called to examine the little dragon." Leo raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Called by who?" "The local xeno-veterinary team," Dr. Keller explained. "We heard about your rescue and wanted to make sure Squirt is in good health. It's rare to find a creature like him in such a good condition after all he's been through." With a quiet nod, Leo stepped aside to let Dr. Keller in. He could tell from her serious expression that she meant business. But there was also a certain kindness in her eyes, something that put both him and Olivia at ease. "Let's take a look at him," Dr. Keller said, gesturing for Leo to bring Squirt over. Squirt, now more accustomed to the routine of the household, had been sitting quietly on the couch, enjoying the warmth of the sunlight streaming through the window. When Leo called him over, Squirt stretched lazily and fluttered his wings before walking toward the vet. As Dr. Keller examined Squirt, she hummed thoughtfully. "He's remarkably healthy for a creature that was abandoned like this. His bones are strong. His scales are vibrant. These are all good signs." Leo and Olivia exchanged glances. They had always known Squirt was resilient, but hearing the vet confirm it made them feel better. However, Dr. Keller continued, "There's something unusual about him. Squirt's empathic receptors are off the charts for a creature his age. Have you noticed anything strange?" Leo and Olivia thought for a moment. "Well," Olivia started, "he seems to bond with the other pets in ways that are almost human. Max treats him like a little sibling, and Professor Quill—" She stopped, realizing what she was about to say. "Actually, yes. Professor Quill, our iguana, has been unusually calm around him, and he's normally quite territorial." Dr. Keller nodded, impressed. "That's exactly what I mean. Squirt's empathic abilities are highly developed for his species. And that's not all. His intelligence level is higher than we would expect from a juvenile." Leo frowned. "Intelligence? But he's just a little dragon. I mean, he's cute and all, but he doesn't exactly seem like he's doing advanced math." Dr. Keller chuckled softly. "I didn't mean intellectual intelligence. I mean emotional intelligence. Squirt seems to have an innate understanding of social bonds, emotional cues, and the needs of those around him. He's not just bonding with your pets. He's actively caring for them." Olivia smiled, glancing over at Squirt, who was now curled up beside Max, his small head resting against the dog's side. I guess he's been taking care of Max, too. I've seen him wrap his wing around Max when the dog's joints hurt. Exactly, Dr. Keller said. This level of interspecies empathy is rare. Creatures like Squirt usually form bonds with other members of their species, not with entirely different species like Max. It's almost as if he understands the emotional needs of others and is driven to protect them. Leo's eyes widened. So you're saying he's more than just a pet? More than just a baby dragon? Yes, Dr. Keller replied. He's a creature with a profound emotional capacity. And what's even more interesting is his ability to mimic social behaviors. It's as though he's studying the actions of those around him and using that information to communicate and connect on a deeper level. As the day wore on, Dr. Keller finished her examination and provided a few recommendations for Squirt's care. Leo and Olivia thanked her, feeling both amazed and overwhelmed by the discovery of Squirt's unique abilities. But that wasn't the only surprise waiting for them. A few days later, Olivia came home with a new addition to the household. This time, it was a small carrier. She opened it gently, revealing a creature that looked like a giant guinea pig, its fur shifting colors from purple to green depending on the light. "What is that?" Leo asked, his voice filled with surprise and curiosity. "Meet Butterball," Olivia said, smiling softly. "She's a Cavi Cosmos, 5 years old. They were going to euthanize her at the shelter. She's got some dietary restrictions and no one wanted to adopt her. I couldn't let them do that." Leo stared at the creature. "You brought home a guinea pig?" "She's not just any guinea pig," Olivia replied with a grin. "She's an alien species, Leo, and she's been abandoned too." Leo sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You know I can't say no to your heart. All right, Butterball, welcome to the family." But what happened next was something neither of them could have predicted. Squirt, who had grown particularly protective of Max, approached the new arrival with a slow, cautious step. For a moment, Butterball froze, her tiny antennae quivering. Then, to everyone's surprise, Squirt did something extraordinary. He lay down beside Butterball, curling his wings protectively around her, just as he had with Max. "He's guarding her," Olivia whispered, her voice filled with awe. Leo nodded, watching as Squirt's bond with Butterball began to form. He's not just a protector of Max anymore. He's become a protector of everyone. Squirt had done the unexpected again, and Leo realized just how much this little dragon had already changed their lives. It wasn't just about saving a creature from the cold emptiness of space. It was about creating a family that, against all odds, had found a way to love and protect each other, no matter their differences. And as the days went by, it became clear that Squirt's impact was just beginning. Life aboard Nova Station had never felt so full. Leo and Olivia watched as Squirt, now thriving under their care, formed stronger bonds with their growing household of unusual creatures. From Max, the alien dog-like companion, to Butterball, the Cavi Cosmos, and even Professor Quill, the iguana intellectus, Squirt's place in their family had become undeniable. The little dragon had quickly proven himself as more than just a rescued pet. He had become the heart of their home. But even as Squirt grew stronger and more confident, Leo and Olivia could sense there was something more to the little dragon than they had initially realized. They could see it in the way Squirt interacted with the other pets, how he seemed to understand each of their needs, and how he appeared to know exactly when someone was in pain or needed comfort. Squirt wasn't just a companion. He was a caregiver, an emotional guide to everyone around him. One morning, as Leo was trimming a customer's hair in the shop, he noticed a familiar face entering the barber shop. It was Dr. Marissa Keller, the xeno-veterinarian who had examined Squirt weeks earlier. This time, she didn't have a tablet or scanning equipment with her. Instead, she seemed focused, her eyes sharp as she looked around the shop, taking in the scene. "Leo," Dr. Keller greeted him, her voice low but filled with urgency. "We need to talk." Leo put down his scissors and wiped his hands on his apron. He could tell from the way she held herself that this wasn't a casual visit. "What's going on, Dr. Keller?" She leaned in closer, lowering her voice. "It's about Squirt. We've been running some tests just to learn more about his species, and what we've discovered is astonishing." Leo's heart skipped a beat. "Astonishing?" he repeated, confused. Dr. Keller nodded, her eyes serious. "Squirt is not just a dragon, Leo. He's from a species called Dracosaphira, one of the rarest and most intelligent species in the galaxy. What we've learned is that Dracosaphira creatures are not just capable of advanced empathy, they are also capable of empathic communication. Essentially, Squirt has the ability to communicate emotions, not just with other creatures, but with people too." Leo stared at her in disbelief. "Empathic communication? You mean he can talk to us?" Dr. Keller shook her head. "Not in words, but in feelings, in emotions. Squirt has the ability to sense what others are feeling, and even project his own feelings onto them. This is something that no one has seen in a Dracosaphira in such a young one before. Typically, their empathic abilities don't develop until later in life. But Squirt is different." As Leo processed the information, he couldn't help but think back to everything that had happened since Squirt had arrived in his life. The way the little dragon seemed to know when Max was in pain, the way he comforted Buttleball when she was scared, and the way Squirt's presence calmed even Professor Quill's sometimes high-strung demeanor. It all started to make sense. Squirt wasn't just a creature that formed bonds. He was a creature that understood others in ways no one else could. "That's incredible," Leo whispered, a sense of awe settling over him. "But why hasn't anyone noticed this before?" "Because Dracosaphira are incredibly rare, Leo," Dr. Keller explained. "They've only been recorded in a few ancient texts. And even then, they were seen as myth or legend. To find one alive, let alone one this young and capable of this kind of communication, is something no one expected." Olivia, who had been quietly listening from the kitchen, walked over. Her eyes widened in surprise as she took in Dr. Keller's words. "You mean Squirt could talk to us through emotions, without saying a word?" "Yes," Dr. Keller confirmed. "And that's not all. Squirt has a natural ability to create emotional bonds with other species, which is why he's connected so deeply with your other pets. Dracosaphira are naturally drawn to those who are emotionally in tune with them. Squirt seems to have an extraordinary ability to create peace between species, even between natural predators and prey." Leo's mind raced. "So what does this mean for Squirt? For us?" Dr. Keller's expression softened. "What this means, Leo, is that Squirt could be far more than just a pet or companion. His empathic abilities could help bridge gaps between humans and alien species. He could become a symbol of interspecies unity, helping others understand that communication doesn't always have to be verbal. It can be felt, shared, and understood on a deeper level." As Dr. Keller finished speaking, Leo felt a shift in his understanding of Squirt. This wasn't just about providing a home for a lost creature. It was about something much bigger. Squirt had the potential to change the way people, aliens, and creatures interacted with one another. He could be the key to unlocking new forms of understanding, compassion, and unity in a galaxy filled with differences. Later that evening, as Leo and Olivia sat on the couch watching Squirt play with Max, they shared a quiet moment of reflection. They had never expected their simple act of kindness, taking in a lost, abandoned dragon, to lead them to something so profound. Squirt had changed their lives, and not just in small ways. He had opened their eyes to a world of possibilities, a world where empathy and connection were more important than words or species. "He's a gift, isn't he?" Olivia whispered, her voice full of wonder. Leo nodded, watching Squirt curl up beside Max, the little dragon's wings gently fluttering as he fell asleep. "He's not just a gift, Olivia. He's a revelation." And as they sat together in the quiet of their apartment, watching the stars outside the window, Leo knew that Squirt's journey was just beginning. The future held so much more than they could have ever imagined, and it was all because of the little dragon who had come into their lives and changed everything.